many times the students are confused between the protected areas as in national park, wildlife sanctuary and biosphere reserve. The most important one and the most critical one for you to understand is a biosphere reserve. We also have some tricks which will help you understand these things better. There are only biosphere reserves that have been recognized internationally in India. So what? The GS is NAG, we will pass it. So you have a P pass. So this is the trick that you have for the biosphere reserve. Is very, very important for conservation. In the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve, they are asking what? Hello everyone, welcome to PW Only IS Only English channel. I am Dimple Nankani, the faculty for Geography and Environment in PW. So many times the students are confused between the protected areas as in national park, wildlife sanctuary and biosphere reserve. And one of the most confusing point is what is the difference between a national park, wildlife sanctuary and the biosphere reserve. So here we are to make you understand the difference between the three of them. One basic thing that you should know, and one of the most important thing out of these three, the most important one and the most critical one for you to understand is a biosphere reserve. So a biosphere reserve is a big area. So if you have the hang of biosphere reserve, you will understand the difference between the three very easily. They're also less in numbers, so they're easy to revise, easy to memorize. We also have some tricks which will help you understand these things better. So first let's understand what is a biosphere reserve. A biosphere reserve, B for biosphere reserve, so B for big. So it's a very, very big area. It's a quite big area. And if I talk about the numbers, there are only 18 biosphere reserves that have been recognized internationally in India. So they are not much, only 18 in numbers. So what is biosphere reserve? Basically, a biosphere reserve is an area that is respecting the principles of environment conservation as well as development. See, many times there's a debate that we should go for development or we should go for conservation. This is a debate that you generally see in the news. Biosphere reserve actually tries to amalgamate all of this. It tries to take into consideration the conservation as well as human development. So a biosphere reserve is a big area. It's a big area that takes into consideration conservation as well as development. How does a biosphere reserve do? A biosphere reserve has basically three areas. It has a core area, it has a buffer area and it has a transition area. So the core area, which is the most protected areas, as you can see, it has national parks, it has wildlife sanctuary. So the most protected area is the core area, as the name suggests. The second one, to reduce the burden on the core area, is the buffer area. So buffer area is used as a buffer. It tries to protect core area, therefore the name buffer. And then you have the third area, that is a transition area. The transition area that transit between the outdoor activities made by human. You have constructions, you have dams, you have hotels. So it's a transition between the outdoor world, the developed world and the core area. So it's a transition which is managing development on one hand and protecting the environment on one hand. So what is a biosphere reserve? A biosphere reserve is very important area, big in area, that has a national park, wildlife sanctuary. It can also have some of the protected areas like bird sanctuaries, and it has been recognized at the international level. It is not just Parliament that recognizes, it is given international designation. There's a program that is called as Man and Biosphere Program at the world level. It's the program of UNESCO and it has been given an international designation. So Biosphere Reserve is not specifically defined by the Parliament. It has been defined by the UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program at the world level. There are three areas we've seen. You have a core area for the protection, for the conservation. You have a buffer area for monitoring, research, education, training. The research, training, education on how to protect the core area is done at the buffer one. And then the transition, this is about a sustainable human activities. You can go for human settlement and sustainable development. So this is your biosphere reserve. Biosphere reserve has national parks and wildlife sanctuary, especially where in the core areas. In the core areas, a biosphere reserve can have a national park as well as wildlife sanctuary. Let me give you an example. For example, you have Panna Biosphere Reserve. There are 18 biosphere reserve. We'll see the trick to remember. but one of them is Panna Biosphere Reserve. The Panna Biosphere Reserve has Panna National Parks, and it also have 𝐑𝐄𝐂𝐿 Wildlife Sanctuary. So within a biosphere reserve, you can have a national park like Panna National Park is present in the Panna Biosphere Reserve, Panna National Park, and it also has a wildlife sanctuary, that is 𝐑𝐄𝐿 Wildlife Sanctuary. Once you understand what is a biosphere reserve, once you memorize the number of biosphere reserve, understanding the difference is a cakewalk. So first, see biosphere reserve. So what are the biosphere reserve? How many biosphere reserve? As I've mentioned, there are about 18 biosphere reserves. The 18 biosphere reserve, we will not just give you the list and tell you to memorize. We will give you the trick to remember. So how do you remember? You remember by the word 5, by the number 5, by 8, and another 5. So 5 plus 5 plus 8 is equal to 18. So there are 18 biosphere reserve. Okay. So 5 in the south, 5 in the middle, and 8 in the north. That's what we have. So let us see one by one. The 5 in the south. The 5 in the south, we also have the trick for this. The 5 in the south is 𝐷𝐺𝑠. There's nothing against GS, but then that's the trick that you can remember. 𝐷𝐺𝑠. Okay, what are those? Nilgiri, Agastyamalai, Gulf of Mannar, Nilgiri, Agastyamalai, Gulf of Mannar, Great Nicobar, and you have Seshachalam Biosphere Reserve. So these are the 5 biosphere reserve. You have Nilgiri, Agastyamalai, Seshachalam, Gulf of Mannar, and Great Nicobar. So the first 5 is done. We had to see what? A 5 plus 5 plus 8. So the first 5 in south, 𝐷𝐺𝑠. Then we have another 5, that is, so what? The GS is 𝐷, we will pass it. So you have a PPAS. PPAS, what are the PPAS in the south? Below the Tropic of Cancer, you have them as Pachmadi. We have them at Panna. So we have a Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve, we have Panna Biosphere Reserve, Pachmadi, Panna, Achanakmar Amarkantak. Achanakmar Amarkantak is a big biosphere reserve. Then you have a Sundarban, that is near the Tropic of Cancer, and you also have Simli-Pal. So what is this PPAS? Another in the central of India. One we've seen in the south, 𝐷𝐺𝑠. In the central India, we are looking at Panna, Pachmadi, Achanakmar Amarkantak, Simli-Pal, and the Sundarban Biosphere Reserve. Then what do we have? In the northern side, above the Tropic of Cancer, right, we have this one. Just remember my name. My name is Dimple Khoopchand Nankani. So you have 2D, 2K, 2N, and you also have a CM. Okay? So you have 2D, 2K, 2N, and we have CM. What are these? You have for D. For D you have Dehang Debang. Dehang Debang Biosphere Reserve, 1D. Then you have Dibru Sakhovaiya, which is the second one. So one is Dehang Debang. 1D is for Dibru Sakhovaiya. There are 2 Ks, so 1D is this, 1D is this. There are 2 K. One is for Kanchenjunga and 1 K is for Kutch. The other one is for Kutch. Then you have 2N also. The 2N, one is Nokrek and one is Nanda Devi. So 1N is Nokrek, the other N is Nanda Devi. Then we have C, that is your cold desert here, and you have your M, that is Manas. So 2D, 2K, 2N, CM. I'll repeat. You have Dehang Debang, Dibru Sakhovaiya. 2D, 2K is Kanchenjunga, and you also have one as Kutch. You have 2N. TKN, Dimple Khoopchand Nankani. 2N, 1N is your Nokrek, the other N is Nanda Devi. And then you have a cold desert as C, and for M you have Manas Biosphere Reserve. So these are the 18 Biosphere Reserve. I have said in the Biosphere Reserve you can have National Park, and also gave you an example that Panna Biosphere Reserve has Panna National Park as well as it has your 𝐑𝐄𝐿 Wildlife Sanctuary. So this is the trick that you have for the 18 Biosphere Reserve. One you have as 𝐷𝐺𝑠, you have PPAS, and then you have 2D, 2K, 2N, C, and M. This is what you have as the 18 Biosphere Reserves. Once we have done this, we've also looked at the examples that a Biosphere Reserve. So this is an example of a Biosphere Reserve. This Biosphere Reserve has lot of national parks. So this is Panna National Park in the Panna Biosphere Reserve. The Panna Biosphere Reserve also has a 𝐑𝐄𝐿 Wildlife Sanctuary. This is an example of Panna Biosphere Reserve. Let me give you another example. Another example is your Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. The Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve also has Lot of national parks, as you can see in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. You can see this is a Arlani Wildlife Sanctuary. You can see Rajiv Gandhi National Park. You can see Bandipur National Park or Tiger Reserve, Mudumalai. You have all of these as the national parks. You can also see Mukurti National Park, Silent Valley National Park. This is present in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. As you can see this, another example that is about Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. The Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve has Nanda Devi National Park. It has this is Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. It also has Valley of Flowers National Park. So within the Biosphere Reserve, you can see a national park. You can also see another national park. So Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve has Nanda Devi National Park. It also has Valley of Flowers National Park. So a Biosphere Reserve is a big area which has national parks. As you can see it from here, Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve has these many national parks and the wildlife sanctuary. So this is what you have. Now let's understand the difference between. So once we've done Biosphere Reserve, let's understand the difference between a national park and the wildlife sanctuary, and then we will differentiate all of them. We'll differentiate 3, but first I understand Biosphere Reserve, but what is the difference between a national park and wildlife sanctuary? A national park and wildlife sanctuary, they actually differ in terms of protection. A national park is given more protection. It is of more importance with respect to the biosphere, with respect to the animal life and the plant life. So the difference basically lies in the vesting of rights to people. What rights can be given to the people? So that's the basic difference. Basically, unlike a sanctuary where certain rights can be allowed, there's little less protection. Certain rights can be allowed in the sanctuary. A national park has no rights at all. A national park is very, very important for conservation. In the sanctuary, tourism can be allowed. For example, tourism is allowed in the sanctuary, but tourism is very, very, very restricted for the national park. It is allowed, but it is controlled too. Okay? It is allowed only in some areas, not in all the areas. So the degree of protection is more for the national park than for the wildlife sanctuary. Then what do we have? The main topic that we have for discussion, wildlife sanctuary is also protected in understanding the difference. The first difference, a national park is protected in Act, Wildlife Protection Act. It has a statutory significance. That is a national park. Even the wildlife sanctuary is also protected under an Act, Wildlife Protection Act. But Biosphere Reserve is as per UNESCO's program. So this is at the international level. This is at the Indian level, parliamentary level. This is also at the Indian level, but this is at the international level. So that's the protection. Who gives the protection? Law or international convention? That's the first difference. The second difference, these areas are of unique significance for a particular species. A species like bird, like ostrich, like vulture sanctuaries, they are of particular importance of a particular species. Here, it is not necessarily a particular species, it's the entire forest that is conserved. Okay? So not a particular species, but the entire forest that gets conserved. Here also, the main area for the main point, the main idea for the Biosphere Reserve is the protection plus sustainable development. You will protect, but you will also allow human development to take place. So first, who gives the authority? Second, what is the idea? Do you want to protect one species? You want to protect an entire area? Or you also want to go for sustainable development? There are many, many wildlife sanctuaries. You have above 500 plus. You have more than 500 plus of wildlife sanctuary. You have 100 plus national parks. But the Biosphere Reserve is easy to remember. You have just 18 Biosphere Reserves. What happens? The number is different. Now, here you can allow you can allow much more interference in your wildlife sanctuary. It is allowing for the interference, biotic interference. Here there's strict provision, and the Biosphere Reserve is divided into 3 areas. The core area is sacrosanct, the buffer area protects the core area, and the transition you allow for sustainable development to take place. So here the protection is not as much. Here there's a lot of protection. Here it is dividing into zones. The Biosphere Reserve is dividing into zones. So this was about the difference between Biosphere Reserve, national parks and wildlife sanctuary. Now let's look at the questions that have been asked in the examination. The most important strategy, the question that has been asked in 2014 UPSC prelims, the most important strategy for the conservation of biodiversity together with the human life. So you also allow for human development, plus you also allow for protection, is the establishment of the most important strategy that we use. In which of them? Do you use it in biosphere reserve? Do you use it in botanical gardens? Do you use it in national parks? Or do you use it in the wildlife sanctuary? I have taken this in the discussion. I would be waiting for your answers in the comment. I am not telling you the answer. I hope you will be able to answer this question. So it was an easy question that was asked in 2014. Now, the another type of question that you can ask, that can be asked to you in UPSC examination, is they will give you one biosphere reserve and they will tell you what all national parks, what all wildlife sanctuaries are present. So 2019, they had taken one biosphere reserve, that is Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. In the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve, they are asking what? Which of the following are in the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve? Which of the following national park, which of the following wildlife sanctuaries, which of the following protected areas are present in the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve? So look at this. The options given is Neyar, Pepara, Shendurne wildlife sanctuaries and Kalakkad Mudantharai tiger reserves. So what all are included? Pepara, Shendurne, Kalakkad Mudantharai. That has been asked. The second option that is given is Madumalai, Satyamangalam, Wayanad wildlife sanctuaries and the Silent Valley National Park. Are they included? The third is Kondinya, Gundla, Brahmeswaram, Papikonda wildlife sanctuary, Mukurti National Park. This is the third one. The D1, Kaval, Sri Venkateshwar wildlife sanctuaries and Nagarjun Sri Salem tiger reserve. Now, when you get these types of questions, you will have to apply elimination. You will have to apply other techniques to come to the answer. Firstly, where is this question come from? Is this question from NCERT? Yes, this question is from NCERT. Which NCERT? Class 11th, Fundamentals of Physical Geography. They have given about the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. There's mention also of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. So this is from your syllabus, main book. Now let's try to use elimination technique to solve this. In our video, we had seen about Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. This is your Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Can you see Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve? Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve has what? Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve has Mukurti National Park. Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve has a Silent Valley National Park. It also has Rajiv Gandhi National Park. So this is Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. And you can see if you look at the major map, this is where you have your Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. But where do you have Agastyamalai? Agastyamalai, this is where you have your Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Where do you have Agastyamalai? Agastyamalai is little down south. This is where you have Agastyamalai. So firstly, there's a lot of distance between Nilgiri and Agastyamalai. So one, I know what is there in Nilgiri. What is there in Nilgiri? In the Nilgiri, I can see Mukurti, I can see Silent Valley, I can see Mudumalai. That is what I can see in Nilgiri. Now let's look at the question. Let's look at the question. Forget the A option. Mudumalai is part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. So it's not a part of Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. This gets eliminated. Coming to the C option, you have Mukurti. Mukurti is also a part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. It's not a part of this one. If I talk about this one, Sri Venkateshwar, Nagarjun Sri Salem. This is more towards the eastern India. This is more towards Andhra Pradesh area. But Agastyamalai is south. So this is also not an option. What is the answer? The answer is that Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve has Pepara, Shendurne, it has Neyar, it has Kalakkad Mudantharai protected areas. So you should eliminate by knowing what is present in the other biosphere also. And this first line has been directly given in your NCERT, the class 11th Fundamentals of Physical Geography. So this is what we have for you today. This is your basic idea about what you have in Nilgiri. Where is this Agastyamalai? So there's a difference between Nilgiri and Agastyamalai. Agastyamalai is quite down south. So this is what we have for today. All of you, stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you for being a part of PW and trusting us. We will see you in the next video. Thank you. Jai Hind.